Shaurn Thomas spent 24 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit.
I was young. Like, for somebody to just snatch your freedom from you, saying you're gonna do a life sentence, everything just stopped. It hit me when them doors shut and I went to shake the doors, they ain't open no more. I was like, do I wanna stay in jail the rest of my life, or as I'm gonna learn how to fight for myself and prove my innocence?
Shaurn is one of roughly 2,500 people since 1989 who have been released from prison in the US after proving their innocence. We've all seen stories like his. They get out of prison, there are tears and hugs and TV cameras. But that all goes away. And then what? Turns out, not much.
Just being wrongfully convicted doesn't entitle you to anything. People are often surprised to find out that once you're exonerated, there are no programs to help you re-enter society.
That's Jon Eldan. Jon started a nonprofit called After Innocence that helps exonerees get connected to services to help with re-entry and advocates for more generous and comprehensive compensation laws. Many think that wrongful convictions come with a windfall, but big payouts are the exception, not the rule.
You need a state law that provides for compensation, and 17 states have no such state law at all. And most of them erect procedural barriers to getting the compensation. For example, state of Missouri will compensate you if you got out of prison based on DNA evidence, but not if you didn't. Look deeply into any of these statutes and you will find things that are deeply unfair. Most people would assume that if you were wrongfully convicted, put in prison for something you didn't do, you can sue the government. The cold reality is that the vast majority of people who can prove that they were imprisoned for something they did not do not have a civil lawsuit, because the civil lawsuit turns not on your wrongful conviction, but on the bad actions by a cop, by a detective, by a lab technician, and sometimes a prosecutor that put you there. If you can't prove that your wrongful conviction was caused by bad actions of a state officer, you have no lawsuit.
So with no money and no formal programs to help them get back on their feet, exonerees are left in a really tough spot. And that's where Jon comes in.
How you doing? How you doing, Jim? How are you? Hey, Gary, it's Jon Eldan from After Innocence. They clearly collected that money and didn't turn it back to you, and we'll see what we can do. I've also found someone who's a financial planner who's interested in talking to you if you want to talk to her. Let's stay in touch about that, making sure that nobody's left behind on the compensation claims. Getting started all over again is tough. Think about applying for a job or trying to get an apartment and having to try and explain where you've been or why you have no credit history.
Once you've been exonerated and you come out to society, it's like you on your own. There's nothing set up for us, nothing.
Jon quickly realized that there was a need to help provide this unique group of people with critical services.
I began to think about, what if we could reach a lot of them very quickly? That became the goal. And so I started calling exonerees and offering them assistance in just a few areas, but serious assistance. One of them is healthcare. The second area we work in is legal services. A third area is social service connections in your community, job training programs, mental health options, housing assistance, whatever it may be that's already existing in their communities, we want to help them learn about it and make better use of it.
How you doing, Shaurn?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
I'm all right. One thing we want to find out is what's going on with your background check. It may show that the conviction is still on the record, and we want to make sure that whoever is running your background check is getting information that's accurate.
24 years of my life. How can you get that back to me? Can you bring my grandparents back? Could you bring me back to see my niece and my nephew, my little brother play basketball? That's priceless. I could have done something with my life that I would never know now. The state ain't gonna be here for us. With Jon, he wanna make sure that we have a fighting chance when we come home.
We know about the best practices for preventing wrongful convictions, and yet we don't widely and quickly adopt them. We know what it would take to root out and find more wrongful convictions, and we don't do that either. And then when we discover the person who's been imprisoned for something he or she didn't do, we turn our backs on them again. That has to change.
I ain't seen none of my 20s, I ain't seen none of my 30s, so It would frustrate him, but I said, I'm going to take that negative energy and turn it positive. They ain't going to never take this smile. Even after 24 years, I ain't going to let that happen.
Thanks for watching. Sometimes the news can feel really negative, but it's important to remember that there are people like Jon Eldan out there who are working hard to make a difference. Subscribe to Freethink for more videos like his.